Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello. Good morning.
Goodness.
Good afternoon.
Loch Ness. I've realised that's our new, after that video I put together with your new theme tune.
Oh, funky fab fun.
My wife suggested that Loch Ness is our new
Loch Ness.
Could you describe this podcast, please, Benji?
No, I can't. No, I'm
Excellent.
afraid not. Yes, certainly. What is this podcast? It's more than a podcast. I'd say it's a way of life, Nick. You know, my name's Benji. This is Nick, and what we do is we talk about all things cult television, and other stuff. You know, really. You know, we've already mentioned Loch Ness. Who knows what's going to be happening? You know, it's rather fun. Rather.
Oh, I think that was a good summation. And just so you know, here are a few things you should know. I'm literally talking rubbish.
The capital of Spain is Madrid.
Write that down.
Hope it is.
And at the end of the podcast, read it out 7 times in reverse.
In the mirror. Take a good hard look at yourself, man.
Or the sun. I don't know what I'm talking about. We are going to be talking about the Gerry Anderson series, Space 1999, the first episode, Breakaway. That's our main topic. That links into the fact, actually, that we are sponsored by the Gerry Anderson store.
We are indeed.
shop.gerryanderson.co.uk.
And as always, we like to take a little peek. We've already been getting some cool feedback from people that have taken advantage of the offers. This week's offer, of course, it was last week's offer. It might not even be open this week, but I'm going to say it anyway because who knows? It's still
Under
open.
The Sea.
So this week's offer, the code is Under the Sea. That's all in capitals, and that is all
dives
one
under the sea
word.
into the world below.
God, Nick, you really, that's just beautiferous. And you pretty much, with that code, you get £5 off any badge or pin or patch or book. So that's virtually free for a lot of them. You get, it's pretty damn good. But on the Gerry Anderson store, there is a whole range of fun things for you to pick up. As well, there's products. I'm looking on the products we love things. I've mentioned in previous podcasts that you can get the Thunderbirds cosplay long sleeve shirts with really fun sort of 3D pod sort of things on the belt. It's rather amazing. There's the Thunderbird.
Yes, that's William Shakespeare with a rocket engine attached to his bottom. The Thunderbird.
The Thunder.
Oh, for a muse of fire.
To be or not to be. You can get the fantastic Thunderbird 5 hoodie, which actually looks fantastic, as I said, which has a gorgeous 3D model by the looks of it of Thunderbird 5 on the front, and in big, glorious, clear letters and numbers, Thunderbird 5 on the back.
Oh, lovely.
Just awesome, absolutely. But if you're a fan of the Gerry Anderson television shows, this is the store for you because it has everything. It has so many different products from so many different ranges. If you like Torchy the Battery Boy, go in and grab it on DVD. If you fancy a bit of Four Feathers Fall, which is harder to say than you think, you can go on there, buy the series. You can get even a funky little print. No, you can't because it's sold out.
No. I've just got to interrupt this to say that I've just looked at the Nicholas Briggs Beard Society Facebook page, Beard Appreciation Society, and they've just cottoned on to the fact that I've shaved my beard off today.
Oh, it's big news. It's
The first reaction is, no! And then Matthew J. Elliott says, this is our time war. Someone else says, look! And it says, change, my dear. Let us mourn the passing of the beard. Goodness me.
You've just broken a whole society. 253 people in this world have now completely had their hearts ripped out in front of them.
Are they a bit like those, in Men in Black, where in that little cupboard at a station. He opens the thing and there's a whole society that.
Yeah.
Is it? Are they like that? I just open. I have a special key to the. Yeah,
and they sort of look up as though a magical messiah of facial hair. How's the face feeling, Nick? Is it nice?
Well, it's all right. I'm just feeling it now. Yes, I mean, what the annoying thing about shaving this bit of your face is you notice all the little imperfections. You can
feel it, yeah.
Little scrubby bits that I didn't quite cut down enough. So it's so much better to have a beard.
You have that problem as well. If you're kissing somebody, the stubble ends up just rubbing and hurting them, and it's not a very nice thing. It's not very nice, and obviously you have to shave every day, which for me I quite liked, and I always wanted to enter the Guinness Book of World Records for fastest full facial shave, because I'm an expert, or was. I have a beard now, but I was an expert at just going with no cuts. And
wow.
Up, down.
I've always been a bad cutter because I have a very strong beard. It's very, very, and it's difficult to cut through, and I could go on. As Tom Baker said to me the other day when I was telling some really dull story, he said, "I do hope that's not the end of the story, Nick," which is such a brilliant put down for something that's dull. I do hope that's not the end. Well, of course, he did hope it was the end. Yeah. Back to Gerry Anderson. We're going to talk about Space 1999, so we don't need really to have a Gerry Anderson memory zone, because that will be the main danger zone of this podcast. But we do have emails, don't we?
We
which
do.
I can access.
You have, yes. I don't have them in front of me today. So Nick is our emailian, so to speak. The emailian.
The emailian.
We are from the planet Oomalian.
So what have we got here? I'll just try this one. It's all very random. Hi, hello. This is from John. What is it? Oh, it's about the John Finch program Counterstrike.
Oh, wow.
Hello, Benji and Nick. Notwithstanding your anathema towards Earl, and it's from Bob Osborne. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Notwithstanding your anathema towards Earl Grey tea and cricket, I am compelled to drop you a line in the hope that you will turn your considerable talents towards a television programme which I feel has been lost in the mists of time. It blooming has too. It's called Counterstrike and starred John Finch and ran for 9 episodes in 1969. There was a 10th episode, but it was cancelled and never repeated. Well, if it was never shown, how could it be repeated? Anyway, I vividly recall being utterly dismayed when it was cancelled back in the day, and little remains from the usual sources to evidence it existed, other than some grainy bits and pieces on YouTube. It seems remarkable that its contemporaries on ITV has stood the test of time and remain intact and have been released on DVD, etc., Department S, Jason King, etc., whereas this excellent show has been substantially lost and forgotten. Wikipedia advises that 4 episodes still exist in the BBC archives as 16mm black and white film telerecordings, while the remaining 5 transmitted instalments have been, in inverted commas, lost.
Oh.
The show had a lot of adamant about it. There's another corker for you to have a delve into at some point. Oh yeah, why not? But also looked to replicate Department S / James Bond in terms of grooviness, etc. Even the main protagonist was called Simon King, which I assume was a nod towards Peter Wingard's other king, Jason King, that is. A brief synopsis is that Finch is an alien being posing as a journalist who is aiming to prevent an alien invasion from the Centaurans. As a young chap in his early teens at the time, it certainly had a huge effect on me, and that's saying a lot when you consider that Pat Troughton's excellent final season as the Doctor was aired around the same time. Comparisons with The Invaders were inevitable. The American series, a Quinn Martin production, I guess, but the show had a certain British charm about it, and Finch lived in a very groovy space-age house and drove a flash car. I appreciate I may be going too far back in time for either of your collective memories, especially Benji, but thought it might be worth suggesting that you might start looking back at some of the older sci-fi TV programmes that were contemporary with Doctor Who in the late 1960s. Keep up the good work. Your podcasts are very entertaining and keep me company while I do my daily chores. Oh, thanks, Bob. What chores? Oh, mine's a pint. Hey, sorry about that. Well, I did look at the bits on YouTube. It is I would say, Bob, if I don't want to offend you while you're doing your chores, but I'd say it has not aged well. And it's not got any of the style and panache of Department S, which shot on 35mm full colour. This is very much black and white, studio bound, 16mm film location inserts. And it's all a bit it's interesting that on YouTube it says the British version of Invaders. I presume it wasn't officially the have you ever seen the Invaders, Benji?
I've not, no.
Oh,
I'm one of those. See,
classic.
I just haven't clocked into this world of.
That's an American one. I have a very strange relationship with it because ITV used to show it a lot in the same time slot as Doctor Who when Doctor Who wasn't on.
Oh, so it was like it felt comfortable, I suppose.
Well, no. When I used to watch it, and all I could think was, "Oh, this isn't Doctor Who." It was very much science fiction trying not to be science fiction, and it was very much, like a sort of thriller mystery thing more than anything else. But it had a brilliant central performance from Roy Thinnis, his name was, who I immortalised in my Doctor Who Big Finish story, Sword of Orion. There's a character called Thinnis, who I named after Roy Thinnis,
who
played David. Oh, I can't remember the name of the character. Never mind. Anyway, yeah, and of course John Finch was a real hip, groovy 60s kind of guy, wasn't he? He did a movie adaptation of a Michael Moorcock book called I can't remember, The Final something. Is that right? I don't know. Can you Google John Finch?
Yeah, I'm on it now. The Final Program.
The Final Program. That's what I was about.
US title: The Last Days of Man on Earth.
Yes, it's very weird. It ends up with him turning into a sort of monkey creature. But anyway,
that happens to us all, doesn't it?
I would love to look at Counterstrike, and I can't find anywhere where those 4 episodes exist. It would be good to watch a whole episode, but at the moment all there is on YouTube are just really, really poor quality fragments. That's an interesting one, Bob. More of these oddities, please, folks.
But also, if you know where they are, the episodes to be found, or if they have been released somewhere in the midst of time, then yeah, let us know, because that is interesting. Cheers. Always, again, anybody else, bring up some oddities. It's always good to discover and remember
here's some more
things.
Oddities. This may be more your territory, Benji. Matt Mayhew writes in with the subject line, nothing. Literally no subject line. Hi, Benji. Hi, Nick and Benji, says. It should be the other way around for this podcast, Matt. I'm just saying. Listening to your latest podcast, and as a child of the late 90s and early noughties, that's you, isn't it?
That is me.
Benji,
it is me.
Yeah.
Well, early 90s.
To my
90s,
memories,
yeah.
that a lot of children's TV were comedy programs, such as a reboot of The Basil Brush Show and game shows. One drama that I remember fondly is a show called The Ghost Hunter.
The Ghost Hunter?
Which starred the one and only Gene Marsh. It's about a boy who has second sight, Roddy is his name, and one day sees a Victorian shoe shine boy, William, who is a ghost. Marsh's character, Mrs. Crocker, is the titular ghost hunter who hunts ghosts for their energy so that she can travel in time and gain eternal life. Oh, that's a nice idea. Very nice. Thank you.
Very nice indeed.
I probably haven't seen every episode due to the fact that I had to gain control of my TV from my siblings. There's a struggle there. Give me the control. Don't know if it stands the test of time, but I enjoyed it at the time. Talking about my childhood at the time, they used to play Doctor Who as omnibus editions every weekend morning. I suppose that was on
UK Gold. UK Gold. That was my.
And I would watch
jam.
it as my parents would put it on, probably as a bit of nostalgia for them, as it was quite often late Pertwee or early Baker, and it got me hooked. I'm probably the only one in my group of friends who got into the series because of that instead of Eccleston and Tennant. I'm still scared of the 8 legs. The 8 legs? From watching Planet of the Spiders at that age. Some of these series you've been reviewing sound really interesting, and I should one day sit down and watch them. You should!
Definitely.
Enjoying the tangents from tangents. Yeah. Tangents from tangents, please.
The tangerines. The Ghost Hunter. Do you know what? It rings a bell, but I actually feel like I was a little bit too old by that point When I was watching it, it was just a little bit. It's around sort of the early 2000s, and I think I'd gone through. I sort of wasn't watching children's telly quite the same, and watch. I think I was just really into the WWE at that time, to be honest, and Doctor Who. That was my thing. But I was talking about. I loved it, mate. I still do. It's not very good anymore, but that's another story. I could talk about that for hours. So I'm not going to. But I was talking with some friends because, saying about this, and we were saying, well, the show that defined children's television in the 90s has to be the Demon Headmaster. It is such a
I suppose so, yeah.
Good. I mean, that is so iconic. It stands up still to this day. It's just been released on DVD, I think. But that is...
Oh, right. Well, even I watch that occasionally.
It's very good.
It's such a fantastic central performance from Terence Hardiman.
Well, I think it's it defined him. He's a bit of like a cultural icon or British icon.
He's such a lovely man and a brilliant actor to work with. I've worked with him a few times, and he is delightful. I feel really, you meet some of these old actors and you feel privileged, like meeting John Hurt and so on. And again, Terence Hardiman is one of those people. Amazing.
I think I'd be too scared. If he was wearing his glasses, it'd be okay. But if he took them off, I'd lose it. I would like, not today, please.
The Demon Headmaster used to sort of hypnotise people, didn't he?
And then I'd come back from recording. So how was recording today? The headmaster was a wonderful man. He is the most inspiring man I have ever met. Oh, what did you do? We watched a documentary on ants and how they make their nests. It is most fascinating. I believe that is what Dinah Hunter, the character, says about the assembly. We watched a documentary on ants and how they make their nests. Love it.
Okay, look, one last email here from Colin de Greurs or Cole Grayus, whatever. Colin sends in the most fantastic artwork. He's the one who did the Space 1999 annual with
awesome.
You, me, and Jamie Anderson in the photographs.
So much fun, isn't it? That was top work. That was.
I'm the Helena Russell picture, I think. Am I? I don't know. I don't want to linger on that too long. It's morning, afternoon and evening, chaps. Looking forward to this week's podcast, though I wish you were chatting about Black Sun rather than Breakaway, as it's bonkers. That's another episode of Space 1999. We'll be talking about Breakaway, named after the famous chocolate biscuit that Eric Idle did the advert for. I'm joking. He did do the advert, but it's not. Anyway, regards, Colin D. P.S. I sent you this before, but as this week's podcast is on Space 1999, I thought I'd send it again. By the way, the subject line. Oh, you hear that dog?
I did. A beast, ferocious beast.
It's like the Hound of the Baskervilles. Subject line is Space 1999. He's actually written the word colon.
As it should be.
Space colon.
I'm the Space colon.
I once had a writer pitch to me an idea for a Doctor Who story for Big Finish.
Right.
And I said, I can't really tell you what I said after that. I said, have you just pitched me a story where the Doctor gets stuck in an alien's colon and gets pooed out at the end? Is that what you've actually pitched me? They went, oh, yeah. And I said, yeah, we're not doing that. That's just disgusting.
It's weird. What a weird thing to pitch.
Well, I won't tell you who it was, but if I did, you'd know why it was weird. Right. There we are. Well, those are the 3 emails.
Great.
Can we remind them about the competition we got going to win Thunderbird's mugs?
We certainly can. Let me just get to make sure I read out the details properly.
Thank
Were
you.
they mugs? I thought they were the clocks.
Oh, clocks, yeah. I'm just completely making stuff up.
Don't promise them things that they can't have.
The Thunderbird's Wellington
so
boots.
Basically,
yes.
we have a competition on, and it's to win 2 Thunderbird's alarm clocks. So there'll be 2 winners of this one.
This might be better than mugs.
And they're quite funky. I had a look at the alarm clocks. I'll look at them again to make sure I don't just describe a completely false product. I hope it's these ones, but it is rather cool. So they're the classic alarm clocks that the classic style alarm clock with the 2 bells on the top, and it's full of wonderful Thunderbirds artwork. It looks like comic-y sort of artwork, which is quite fun. But the real winner of what makes this clock so cool is that instead of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it says TB1, TB2, TB3, TB4, TB5. I lied. There's no 6, but it's on the side. So, certainly in the early hours of the morning or the early hours of the afternoon, you'll be able to look as to which Thunderbird it is. Pretty funky.
Yeah.
So yes, the closing date for that one is Friday the 25th of May. And here is the question. Describe the Thunderbird 6 vehicle. And the subject line to send those emails to us is Light-Fingered Fred. A nice little
Light-Fingered Fred.
And so if you want to enter that competition, and I would, why not? Who doesn't want an alarm clock? I'd get an alarm clock but not set the alarm, because who wants to be woken up? Send your entry to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And there you go.
So
magical, eh? Magical. Magic Owl.
Time to discuss Space 1999 Breakaway. Now, the reason I chose this, The Dark Side of the Moon, September the 9th, 1999. Nuclear waste disposal area too. I'm just reading out what I can see on the screen as it's playing. It's because you have never seen Space 1999, have you?
I haven't. No, I've always been aware of it.
So I made you watch this.
I've always been aware of it because it's one of those shows. How can you not be aware of it? But no, I've never watched it before, and so I watched it. Sat down last night, watched Breakaway, and was incredibly impressed. Actually, I was very impressed. You paused your camera, Nick. I can't see you. You're just.
Oh right, it's because I'm watching Space 1999.
That makes sense. I wonder. I was just worried in case we'd turn off. That makes more sense.
Oh.
But yes, no, I thoroughly enjoyed Space 1999. Actually, for me, I think what makes this stand out is that I've not seen any science fiction, television-based science fiction, which looks so absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the effects and the whole slickness of it is, yes, beyond compare, isn't it? It's very expensive and beautifully made.
Oh, it really is. I mean, it spares. I don't know how much it cost, and I'm sure there is information about that, but I'm sure Jamie Anderson will probably be able to give us.
Why don't you Google it?
Well, maybe
Space 1999 budget. Put that. Eagle 1 to Moonbase Alpha. We copy. It's so consciously trying to be a bit like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, very much. It's channeling it, isn't it? Quite strongly.
Even the commander going to the moon base and being given, something to eat by a stewardess and all that kind of malarkey.
I can't find any information on a budget.
I just wondered.
But something I would say about it, and certainly the set design, which is in some of the most fabulous set design I've ever seen, because it feels so real. It feels it's it's very 70s, but it does feel like it's a place that's up there and things are happening. It doesn't feel like you're in Television Centre or Shepperton Studios. It feels like you are in, you're in outer space, and it does make me wonder whether or not this served as some kind of inspiration for Star Wars. Really controversial thing to say, but when you look at Star Wars and like the Death Star and that environment, which is really immersive, and you really believe you're in the ship, and actually on the very first the Rebel ship at the start does channel some elements. So controversial thing to say, but I think it really looks good.
I think that I don't think there are any design staff in common, are there? I don't know. I mean, but I think that it was very much a 1970s view of sort of futuristic sci-fi stuff.
Well, the flares, But it works really nicely. I always say to people, there's nowhere I'd rather be if we were going into space.
Nicholas Briggs.
Hold on, I've just got Jamie Anderson has just noticed my beard has gone.
Has it fallen off?
Yeah, it fell off. I just phoned to see whether you'd found it anywhere.
Sadly not. I will keep an eye out though.
Listen, we're just in the middle of doing the Benji and Nick show. You can't hear Benji because he's in my headphones, unfortunately.
He's in my head.
He can hear you. What do you know about Space 1999? We're talking about Breakaway. I mean, how expensive was Space 1999?
I think Space 1999 was the second out of 3 times, or possibly the second out of 4 times, where Dad made the most expensive show at that time that had ever been made.
Yeah.
So it was certainly expensive. I don't know, in old money what it was.
But yeah, I thought it was a sort of record holder for that. I thought, because it is amazingly stylish, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's
what?
very cool looking.
And did any of the people who worked on Space 1999 go on to work on Star Wars, for example?
Brian Johnson.
There we go.
He went on to...
What was his role?
I think he was special effects supervisor or director on, I want to say Empire Strikes Back. But certainly, as I understand it, George Lucas visited Bray Studios, where the model effects unit was for Star Wars, to get ideas about how to do stuff.
I knew there was a link, because Benji just pointed out and said it looks like it inspired it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because they did some test shots that weren't good enough, and he knew of Brian's work, because Brian had worked on 2001.
Yeah.
And I think there was a point where the Millennium Falcon looked a bit too much like the Eagle, so they had to change the design a bit. But they certainly learned a lot of tips and tricks from Brian, and that's why Brian then later went on to join the team.
Oh, that is fantastic. That's better than I could have hoped for,
That is
Jamie.
perfect.
Good. I'm happy to assist.
I'm so glad you were there and not visiting your grandmother as you were yesterday when I called you.
I have literally just walked in the door, so it was great timing.
Wow.
Magic.
Yesterday I FaceTimed Jamie, and he shows his grandmother me on FaceTime, and she thought it was a photograph of Jamie. Even though I was waving. That was just...
Yeah.
But she is 98.
She is 98. She just said, "Why are you showing me a photograph of you? I thought it was your friend calling." So,
All bald people look the same.
well, we often have that, don't we?
Well, now I've shaved.
Yeah, that's going to
Yeah,
say.
now I think I'm talking to myself.
Well, anyway, thank you. Have you got anything else to say about the first episode of Space 1999, Jamie?
Watch out for Martin Landau's fingerprints on the front edge of his desk, because the take that they used was the second or third one, and so there's fingerprints from a previous take when the moon is shaken by the explosions.
Yes. And can you explain what kind of radiation it is that makes the waste dump blow up on the moon? No, I don't think the writers could either.
No. In fact, I've got a brilliant book. I don't know why I'm looking around behind me. It's not here. Which is by...
It's on your head.
It probably is on my shelf. Hang on. Just waiting to bore you now while I look for it. Are you bored yet?
No.
No, not quite.
Okay. Well, I'm running out of time to find it.
Oh, well.
Anyway, it's a brilliant book by Kevin... Oh, poor Kevin, I've forgotten his name. He was one of the science advisors on Gravity, and he basically explained in the book how it would almost be impossible, talking in kind of physics terms, to blow the moon out of Earth's orbit, and even if they did, it would disintegrate, and it would be catastrophic for Earth and all that terrible stuff. So, yes, look out for Kevin Grazier, that's his name. Look out for Kevin Grazier's book.
Well, thank goodness that it's perfectly scientifically possible to have a space-time machine inside a police box.
Yeah, you've got me there. Yes.
I do think whether it's possible. I thought
it was possible. I'm going to find the thing and send it to you. There is a Stephen Hawking derived thing which basically states that the TARDIS would be the best route, as in sort of interdimensional relative dimensions thing. That would be the best way to make a time machine work. So there is something in it. Anyway, we've gone off piste.
Well, how could that happen in the Benji and Nick show?
I'm glad I'm on brand in that case.
All right. Well, listen, I'll let you get on with your life, and I'll speak to you on. Thanks ever so much for that,
Yeah,
Jamie.
thank you.
That was lovely.
Good, thank you. Pleasure. Good luck having a smooth face.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I cut him off in mid-goodbye. That's the kind of friend I am. Goodbye.
You have served your purpose.
I'm actually watching the episode here, Benji.
As it goes along. How far through are you?
Well, now Helena Russell is looking into a comm lock which is a nifty bit of technology they had that anyone could nick to open any door. And they're sort of doing the thing because it has an actual little television in it, and she's holding it very carefully.
Oh,
like
that
it's an
awesome little
special effect.
I thought it was a Sinclair telly, but it's far too early for that. But it's really cool. How many minutes through are you?
9 minutes and 56 seconds, 57 seconds, 58 seconds, 59. Shut up.
There you go. I'm there. I'm synced.
Are you?
Little telescope going on there.
Yes.
But it is
it's
everything
not a
about
telescope. It's a microscope.
Well, even better. I'm glad he knows that, because I would have known that. The set itself is glorious, though, as you can see there. It is a fun series. It takes itself incredibly seriously, which I think is good, as all science fiction should be. I think it should 100%.
Well, let me warn you, because you've just seen this episode, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this is the most normal, least bonkers episode.
Right.
From here onwards, it just goes totally bat poo crazy. And all sorts of weird stuff happens that's nothing to do with science, even less to do with science than the nonsense in this. But, Martin Landau and, God, goodness me, what's her name who plays Helena Russell? They were big stars anyway. They go through it with
Barbara Bain.
Barbara Bain. Sorry, Barbara Bain. Determination. Also, I was Nick Tate, who plays Alan Carter. I accused him last week of having a cod Australian accent.
Right.
He's Australian. So I apologise publicly.
So you should. Yeah, he's probably saying, "Yeah, well, I think Nick hasn't got a very good English accent. To be honest, it's it's not very good, is it? Let's be honest."
Well, at Big Finish, we've often had criticism of American accents of people in Big Finish plays. We say, but they're American. They go, oh, well, they must have lived in England too long. They don't sound American to me. So, yes, accents actually are really personal. Our appreciation of them and people doing them. Anyway, back to Space 1999. What else can we say about it? Breakaway?
Well, I would say one of the things, again, that I love about it is the score for Space 1999 is majestic. Yeah. Oh, it's just almost some of the most spectacular work Barry Gray has done. It's just so sweeping and I use the word wide, which sounds really strange, but it feels very big and like space itself. It is just glorious.
Yes, that's what it was trying to conjure up. I think the majesty of space. These cues, as happened in series like this, they get repeated quite a lot.
Oh, of course. Well, you got Barry can only do so much. I'm not doing a 20-odd episode.
Probably just paid him to do so much, and then thought we'll use the rest of it as stock tracks.
If you look at that little glass case, that looked almost like it was Aurak, or what would go on to be Aurak. It does look a little bit.
Oh yeah, or all that thing in Destiny of the Daleks. You see, there's Nick Tate as Alan Carter there. Well, Commander, this is a completely authentic Australian accent, and Nick Briggs has been spreading horrible rumours.
Yeah, mate, he's not a nice man. Can't do Australian. I'll tell you who was a pleasant sight.
Can I just show you behind there, where the eagle thing is being pushed past and someone's walking in front? That's actually someone just standing in front of a load of models. It's rather well done, isn't it?
It looks really big as well. It doesn't look like a room. It's very clever. The whole thing's very clever. It's been well thought out. I love that desk area, the sort of wraparound metal desk area there, with all the fun. But that's, if I could have my studio look like that, I would just be a happy man. It's like a very chromy sort of thing. Look at those CRT monitors. It's really hard though, because nobody can see this, but I could just go on about all the fun 70s stuff. But I'll tell you,
hopefully people have synced up to that's 9 minutes and 56 seconds that we arrived at and now are with us. Now this character Simmons, I'm slightly obsessed by him. Roy Dotrice as Simmons. He has a horrible fate in another episode. Anyway, sorry, you were saying something before I interrupted you, I think.
Well, I was going to say that one pleasant face that immediately you see very early on is Philip Maddock.
Yes.
Second you see him, you think this is going to be good.
And he's not in it.
And he's not in it. No, that's the comedy of it all. But I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a reassuring face. You know, that's a good chap.
He is the predecessor to Commander Koenig and just does a Commander Grolski or something.
He just has like a paragraph, doesn't he? Like, this is what's happened. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. Bye.
Goodbye. I'm quite angry. I've been ousted from my job.
Oh, I tell you one thing about this that I love, and I thought it was so amusing, but yet very clever. The outer space scenes, which are just shot in slow motion. So good, so fun. Oh, you can tell they were having the time of their life playing around.
Especially they have a big punch up, don't they? Because people get driven. This radiation causes explosions and madness.
Doesn't
it's interesting radiation, isn't it?
It's rather funky radiation, you know. Perhaps they should have asked Alidon for some anti-radiation drugs.
That's the Thal character from the first Dalek story on Doctor Who, for any of you listening who don't know about that, which I'm sure there's nobody listening who doesn't know about that.
You should listen to our earlier podcast that we did on it.
Indeed, yes. Yeah. I mean, have you not got nothing better to do with your lives? I would say that one of the things that's occurring to me to hear, there's this big sort of tense argument between Commander Koenig and Commissioner Simmons. That one of the things that really strikes me about this episode is that they obviously discussed at the script stage of having lots of angry scenes and lots of tense scenes. And so they put them in, but it doesn't... just put his finger up to press a button and he clearly wasn't pressing any button at all. There's no real substance. You don't really know what they're arguing about. You know what I mean? They're just having an argument to make it into a tense scene. You know?
Yeah.
I feel the intensity of the acting is not warranted by the subject matter. You know, they're all being terribly over serious about things, but not. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of it's quite talky at times, and there is a sense of it can get bogged down rather quickly in something. But then it makes up for it by having some really impressive action sequences. I love that yellow up there. I couldn't work out, is that yellow light or is that where they've got the yellow style of green screen and they've just not bothered to illuminate, not bothered to CSO
it? No. There was no CSO in this. They did matting, you know, but that was about it. Yeah.
But it's the whole thing is you know, it's done very cleverly, and I mean, in terms of action sequences as well, one of my favourite sequence in all of this is when the radiation astronaut guy is trying to break the glass inside the room, and that is because there's a horrible situation to be in, and even though when the glass is still holding and it's badly cracked, I was sort of on the edge of my seat thinking, what is going to happen? Because that is not going to hold. And then luckily he dashes out and it's all fine. But there was some tense stuff in there. Oh, that bloke, do you see him? He just did the...
Yeah, he's got the little twitch. The strange radiation is affecting him. He's going to... this is the guy who's going to do the thing, isn't it? It's going to smash the window.
Probably very soon as well.
It is a rule, of course, that in any sci-fi drama that features a moon base, someone has to smash a window. And
of course.
And all the air has to be sucked out. It happens in... happens in UFO, and it certainly happens in the episode of The Prisoner I wrote for Big Finish that's set on a moon base. There's a bit where someone has to start smashing the window. You know, it's just to it. Victor Bergman, what do you think of him?
Victor Bergman, fantastic as always. You know,
he was my favourite character back in the day.
Does he stay through the whole thing?
Yes, but they get rid of him for the second series. The second series is a total reboot where they tried to make it more like Star Trek, and then it just ended up being horrifically cheesy.
Because he's a strange sort of character in the sense that the way he looks is not the type of, you wouldn't imagine him being up there on the moon, so to speak. I know it sounds weird to say that because he looks sort of older than you'd expect, but he's a fantastic character in it, and
Barry Morse, who played him, was quite an important star around about this time. So putting him in the cast would have made the broadcasters and the distributors quite happy. He'd also been in another Gerry Anderson series called The Protectors. He was one of the
Protectors. Yep, I've heard of that.
Actually, no, I'm talking rubbish. He wasn't in The Protectors. He was in something else entirely called the Zoo Gang.
The Zoo Gang. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, look that. I want you to look. Oh no, the man's going mad. He's twitching. The radiation has affected him.
Always gets him in the end, doesn't it?
Look up the Zoo Gang. You would love the music from it. It's an old ITC series from the 70s. It's got Robert Vaughan in it. It just gives.
There's pictures of these animals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that music.
You've heard it, have you? Yeah.
I'm watching it now. John Mills.
Yeah, you see, it was class. They were sort of ex-resistance fighters from the Second World War, still working together on solving cases. Of course, everyone had to solve cases. So listen, it's slow motion running. They're running like mad to get in their buggy here, and they've cranked up the camera to make it look like it's weightless.
But it's done well, for its time as well. It's absolutely groundbreaking television, and deserves to in my opinion, deserves far more acclaim than it has. Just the god, he's about to attack them.
I'd also like to talk about body fascism that we have now, where every actor on television has to be really skinny, and these guys are wearing quite skin tight uniforms, and you can see tummy folds and moobs and everything. You're thinking nowadays they wouldn't put them in those costumes because they are just not flattering.
They're not flattering. I don't believe they're flattering.
Don't put a
for
middle-aged
anybody.
man in a tight-fitting costume. It's not going to end well, is it?
But it's the idea as well that on the moon, they take into account the current fashion on the Earth. Oh yes, well of course they'll be wearing flared trousers.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they be? Whereas
this guy comes in here. He's a stunt man, so he's obviously going to die, is he?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's this guy. Oh yeah, there we go.
Here it goes.
Quickly, the Earth's gonna. Oh no, the sugar glass is gonna break any second.
That's a very underwhelming sort of look at. They didn't look as terrified as they should be. Just. I'll tell you one memory of this. Actually, I can say is that I remember being on holiday when I was very little in Cyprus, of all places. And
Can I just interrupt? That shot of Moonbase Alpha, that was going to be the moon base in the second series of UFO.
Really?
And then they changed to but then they used it for this instead. Carry on, back to Cyprus.
Back to Cyprus. Yes, well, Nick, we're in Cyprus. I remember as a kid seeing they had the toys of the eagle.
They're great toys, aren't they? Available from shop.gerryanderson.co.uk.
Oh yeah, I didn't know you can get them on there. Actually, that's pretty funky. But I remember them. I remember seeing it, but it sticks in my mind for some reason because I had no idea really what it was from. But I knew from seeing it at the time, if it makes sense, that it was like an iconic thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
like it's what you see it in lots of places. Like especially if you go into like cult television sort of shops or places like that. Yeah, I'd grab one of those. Why not?
No, but they're just a beautiful sci-fi design in their own rights.
Very complex.
Yeah, irrespective of what TV series they came from. You'd imagine that collectors of that sort of thing would just want one.
But I would say with this, just the design perspective, but everything from the sets to the models is intricately thought out and intricately designed with a sense of function, but also an extreme sense of style. And you can really see that. And I love it for that reason alone.
I would say in summation, I'd give it the 3 exclamation marks out of 5.
Yeah, I think it gains a good 3 out of 5, certainly.
Yeah. I think it is a fantastic concept. It's a thing of beauty in terms of its production values. And the concept itself is a fantastic launch pad for a whole load of crazy adventures, and it's something I would love to do. You know what I mean? I would love to
absolutely
help reinvent it. I think that there are some imperfections in the way the series actually went on television, which is probably a bit of blasphemy, so I apologise to anyone that I'm offending here for that bit of heresy.
Well, I think
I would have liked to have seen a more of a through line with the characters and the series, but of course that wasn't the tradition of this kind of television in those days. The end of this episode seems to set up a lot of stuff, doesn't it? The signal from that planet
absolutely.
Meta.
That is where That is where we are destined, or something. He says, yeah.
Well, none of that is developed. It's never mentioned again.
You're kidding? And really, that's not mentioned again?
No, never. It's like it never happened. And the next episode is like you don't know whether you're one day after what just happened or a year. They just don't explain it. Because in those days, they made this kind of television so that it could be sold in syndication and there would be no strain on having to show it in a particular order.
So by that, then, does that mean, because the moon's out of orbit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does that thread continue through?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Well, how else did you think it was going to go? I'm pressing stop on that. I'm not going to watch anymore. Yes, it's basically Star Trek, but on the moon. That's the sort of concept it is. The moon just carries on travelling around the universe like the Starship Enterprise, except,
what
of course,
fun idea.
They're out of control. They can't govern where they go, and they've always got, if they go somewhere where they think they can live, because they're thinking, what should we do? Should we stay on the moon, or should we must inhabit another planet? Then quite often they have to get off the moon before they pass it and are too far away to get to it, and there's all that kind of stuff goes on in future.
But it's very good. I definitely encourage people to check it out because there's a lot of ideas. Oh, Nick's back. There he is. But still, every time I get the shock, you just don't look. You look different. It's strange. It's so strange. Where's your space? Your space beard. But yeah, I'd encourage people to watch it. And I think if I was at that time turned on the television and saw this on the screen, I would be blown away by just how incredibly expensive it looks. You'd think you're watching a film, and to know that there were a lot more episodes. I don't know how many there were in total. Was it like? Well, there was 24 or something. 24 episodes in the first series, and I think 24 on the second. Well, then that's that's an awful lot to watch, and so I'd be feeling very excited having seen the first one, thinking we've got more of this. This is awesome. I have bored you, have I not, with one of my reasons for my slight the sort of hesitation I have about Space 1999, I suppose, when I speak about it, is that when it came on when I was a kid or a teenager, my area of television, the local television, Southern television, did not take it. I think it was the first time when the ITV network were not able to get all the regional stations to take this and network it. A lot of them turned it down. They didn't like it or whatever. Really? And so I actually tuned in to watch it at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and there it was, not there. It had been in the TV Times magazine and everything, and then I realised the regional variation said it wasn't there. So I had to wait a year to see it, and by then it had lost its prime time slot and was just being and they showed it at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And did you watch it? Did you watch it a year later from the beginning, or was it from the second series? Okay. No. Southern Television never took the second series, so I have never properly seen it. When it came out on video years ago on VHS, I watched a bit of it and really didn't like it because it's a totally different series. They just got rid of Victor Bergman, who was my favourite character. Well, yeah, I mean that's an instant way to switch off, isn't it? You think, don't care anymore. And it had all that thing, because you notice they're all very cold, and it's very 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's all very everyone's speaking like this. Yeah. The second series, it's all kind of everyone backslapping and laughing and falling around and having a drink, and it's just they decided it needed more warmth, so they went from a morgue to a rave, and they didn't stop in between. You know what I mean? It goes from one big party on the moon, basically, as opposed to a serious scientific operation. And having Catherine Schell as a shape-shifting alien who just kept turning it randomly into lions and tigers and things. I don't know why. I haven't watched it. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it justice. Anyway, there you are. That's us on Space 1999. Very good fun. What are we going to talk about next week? I have no idea. Actually, I had an idea of something I wanted to talk about, but I've this morning decided to change it, and I'm sure you'll approve of that, because I really wanted to talk for you to watch the first episode of The Devil's Crown, because I think it's such a little gem of television, and maybe we'll have to do that in the future because it is fantastic. But actually, I found out some sad news this morning that Trevor Preston, the chap who created Ace of Wands, has passed away. And so it feels very fitting that given it's a show that we both like, that maybe we should talk about that first episode. Well, it's not the first episode, but the first episode that you would find on the DVD.
Yes,
maybe we could talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that then. What's it called? Do you know?
So I think it's called. Let me have a look. It's got. I can. Do you know what? I can see the title in my head, but I can't realise it.
Read it aloud.
Yeah, like
it's like a secret title.
It's a magic, because the Ace of Wands is. It doesn't have all of its. I think it's the Meddlers.
We bonded over that theme. The Meddlers. We bonded over that theme tune, didn't we?
We did indeed. Oh, and what a theme tune it is. Ding 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 ding, boom boom. But yeah, so it's you don't get the whole lot. You only get some stuff from series 3, I believe.
That's right. So much of it erased. What a shame.
And some have said that it's better. The better stuff was early on. So who knows? But yeah. So next week it will be that fantastic television 70s television show, The Ace of Wands, or simply Ace of Wands.
Well, I suppose it's time to speak like this.
Well, move close to the old microphone there.
See if we can headbutt it.
I haven't done it so far. It's angled away from me, which is good. Well, Mr. Briggs, it has been another pleasure, a fantastic edition of the Benji and Nick Show. And thank you to everybody at home, sitting there, or standing, or maybe you're sort of in between, lying down or floating.
Or falling. You're just catching them mid-fall.
Yeah. Oh! That amazed me. I walked down the shop yesterday and a woman tripped up on the curb and she looked at me and I looked at her and she just sort of shook her head. It was a comedy moment, mid-fall.
You didn't help her though. No.
Well, she didn't fall over. She just sort of tripped, sort of. Whoop.
It's difficult to know how to recover from a fall when you. The classic technique is to stop and go back and look at the thing you fell over as if you want to blame it,
Oh.
Because you want to show that you're in control. You can't just trip and just carry on walking like you don't care. That's not right. You have to do something, don't you?
I just reassuringly said to her, I said, it's all right, I've tripped over that bit before. Well, that's a lie, of course I haven't, because I'm not an idiot. But
I've never tripped over that. I'm not an idiot. Let's hope she's not listening. Anyway, time to say goodbye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Goodbye.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.
Calling Benji and Nick. Calling Benji and Nick. Are you receiving me?
Hello. Good morning. Good evening. Good day. Goodness. Good luck. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Benji and Nick Show. My name is Benji.
And my name is Nick.